Now, would you like to have a continuous harvest from your vegetable garden throughout the growing season? Is it even possible? Well, in today's video, we will be discussing an important strategy that I think can actually enable you to have a continuous harvest throughout the growing season, and even in some instances allow you to grow vegetables throughout the year. So all of that we will be discussing in today's video. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Welcome to Veggies and Herbs. I'm Robin Molale. Now, I know the frustration of after you have harvested the crop that your land or your space is vacant. I also know the frustration of harvesting a lot of crop at the same time. For instance, all your cabbages are ready at the same time. You do not have sufficient storage space. Well, I have discovered a strategy that is actually very effective. And until I actually implemented this strategy, I had some serious issues with having a continuous harvest from my garden. Now, ladies and gents, the strategy that I'm referring to is succession planting. Now, before I explain how this strategy can be implemented in whether you have a container garden, a small space, or a big space, let us firstly quickly chat and discuss what is succession planting. So the idea of succession planting is to actually get multiple harvests from a single container or from a single plot. So you can have multiple harvests instead of just growing one item. So if you just have a couple of containers, the way you can implement succession planting is maybe to start off with some quick growing crops. So there are only certain crops that are working perfectly to do actually succession planting. So if you have a small space and you have just a few containers, the idea will be to maybe start off with some radishes as a start, which will allow you to harvest them just in 30 days. So once you have harvested your radishes, you can then maybe in the same container plant some baby spinach or some arugula, and that will allow you to harvest them within 30 to 45 days. Again, then once you have harvested your arugula and your baby spinach, you can then plant in the same container some Swiss chard, which is a beautiful cut and come again crop that will allow you to harvest multiple times. But that is just an example of how you can actually implement succession planting actually just from one single container. Now, when it comes to succession planting, I've been trying to actually implement succession planting even in my winter vegetable garden. So you remember in this bed we used to have some broccoli. We also had some black-eyed peas that was growing actually in this section of the garden. But as soon as we harvested those crops, the broccoli and the black-eyed peas, we actually planted some broad beans. They're growing quite well at the back. They are long season crops. And we also planted some spring onions. So by doing that, we were able to actually ensure that this space does not remain vacant, but you actually manage to get a continuous harvest even from this very same bed. Now, another way of also implementing succession planting is to stagger your plants or your sowing in such a way that you will have a continuous harvest of the same crop. So how I've implemented this is, for instance, with the beetroot. I think it was in April or May or March that we have sown some of the beetroot in this section of the garden. I sow them quite thickly, so I grow them in clusters. Whenever I need some beetroot, I can just harvest some of these beetroots. On the other bed, we also have another batch of beetroot that are growing concurrently. So they are approximately a few months apart. But this approach will just allow me to always have some beetroot in the garden instead of being overwhelmed with a big batch of beetroot at the same time. If you remember, the Asian butternut squash was growing in this section. After we harvested that plant, we planted some beetroot. There's some cabbage. There's a kale plant growing at the back. But the idea that I want to demonstrate is that once you harvested something, immediately replace it with a crop that is relevant for the season. So these beetroots are growing some very nicely. There's a nice big one already here. Look at this one. Nice. I'm happy with this one. Yeah. But the idea is not to get overwhelmed. Stagger your plants and implement succession planting. So obviously, if you have a single raised bed, the way you can implement succession planting is to maybe 1 month you plant one crop in one section, the next month you plant maybe Swiss chard, another crop can be planted maybe lettuce and potatoes, and you can actually get multiple harvests in different crops just from a single space. So the idea of succession planting can actually be implemented in any type of environment. What is currently happening in my space, remember in June, we planted some potatoes in one section of the bed. We've planted some onion sets. We have some cabbage that is actually growing here. We have also some cauliflower. So when things are getting ready, later in the spring, we will be getting quite a lot of crop just from this one single bed. Some of them are quite long season crops, like the onion sets. They require approximately 3-4 months to grow, depending on the environment. So I'm confident that we will get quite a lot of crops just from the section, and then we will replace it with some beans after we have harvested this crop. But let's quickly harvest another broccoli from the other section of the garden. So in this raised bed, I planted some purple sprouting broccoli. I think I almost left it too long, but I think it's quite pretty and nice. So I'm just gonna harvest this head, and I think if I'm lucky, I might get another round of this purple sprouting broccoli if I allow the plant maybe to stay on. So we'll see how that goes, but let's quickly go ahead. Let me get my knife and harvest this baby. Awesome. Beautiful. Yeah. So the idea is to have a continuous harvest throughout the growing season. And we had some broccoli, we have been harvesting some beetroot. And I feel like this year, this winter season, was one of my most productive seasons since I've been actually trying to actually get to implement succession planting. I respect the farmers. Imagine the farmers really need to know how to actually be able to put out crop on a regular basis for their clients. But hey, we as backyard gardeners, we are getting there. We are fine-tuning our approaches. So to get to a point that we will be able to know exactly when we will be having a regular supply maybe of carrots. But I think let's sow and grow and learn together as we're trying to figure this thing of gardening out. But yeah, I'm totally happy with the approach. And just from this morning harvest, this is some of the stuff that we got. We have a little bit of baby carrots. We have some beautiful purple broccoli right there. Yeah, baby carrots, some broad beans. Yeah, awesome stuff. If you want to follow along, we do the monthly planting and sowing series where I share with you what I'm doing. You don't have to follow it exactly, but it can just give you an idea as to how to actually implement succession planting. I mean, in South Africa, we are so blessed to have such a long growing season. So it's important, therefore, that we don't take that for granted, but actually ensure that we plant and schedule our plants so that throughout the next 9 months of our growing season, you can get so much. And we have seen it here on Veggies and Herbs that we can even grow throughout the winter season, because this whole winter we did not stop growing. We have been growing throughout the winter, and here we're entering spring. In early spring, we will be continue to harvest some of the crops that we started in winter, and so the cycle goes. Now, with that being said, it's also important to understand that succession planting can take a lot out of your soil because it never gives your soil an opportunity to rest. So it's important to feed your soil. So I've made a video of 5 organic soil improvers that can really help you to ensure that your soil remains fertile and you always feed your soil. So you can check out that video. And if you want to see what we have also started in September, I'll put that video up as some of the things that we started in September. But I believe that succession planting is definitely a key to unlock your potential as a gardener and also to get so much out of your limited space. So I hope this add value. Let us know what strategies are you implementing, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next video. Keep on sowing and growing.